Time for world politics. We'll see what's happening on the political landscape and what's going on in that realm. And then we'll definitely have Coco McMillan coming your way at 6 o'clock. And she's got a host of entertainment guests that'll be coming your way also. So definitely that'll be something you might want to check at 6 o'clock here on Pod TV. Israel cabinet is discussing Gaza plan, ceasefire, and hostage release. So Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase one of Trump peace deal to release hostages and begin the ceasefire. So definitely that's something that is going on. And Norway is bracing for Trump's reaction if he does not win the Nobel Peace Prize. So definitely Trump is saying, as he's talking Nobel Peace Prize amid Gaza deal, they'll find a reason not to give it to me. And Luna formally nominates Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. So it looks like he's got his nomination, and we'll see what happens if he gets it or he doesn't get it, and all along those lines. But yes, it does look like he's up there in the possibility of getting his Nobel Peace Prize. Pope Leo condemns economies that marginalize the poor while the wealthy live in a bubble of luxury. And Putin says Russian air defenses responsible for Azerbaijan's net jet crash last year, killing 38. So 10 months later, Russia admits deadly downing of that particular plane, and he does admit that Russian air defenses were to blame for the jet crash. And Trump is holding meetings with the Finnish president. Grand jury indicts the New York Attorney General, and definitely that is something that people are talking about as well. So definitely that's something going on, and it does look like I said earlier, he has been nominated. So we'll see if he actually gets this Nobel Peace Prize or not, and what folks have to say about that. And as the shutdown wears on, Transportation Secretary is threatening to fire problem children. Air traffic controllers are lashing out. So Sean Duffy warns air traffic controllers they won't be paid if they call in sick. So Duffy hints at firing air traffic controller problem children amid the continuing delays. So this is something else that is going on in the political landscape. And courts are hearing challenges to Chicago and Portland deployments. So definitely that is something that's going on in the political landscape. So we'll see how this all plays out. And ardently pro-Israel Democrat Senator John Fetterman has congratulated Trump for his historic peace plan. And even Netanyahu is saying that Trump may deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. So Republicans praise Trump for Gaza deal as Palestinian Americans are remaining wary as so much remains unclear according to what they are saying and thinking. And a Texas court has halted the execution of death row inmate Robert Robertson, who claims innocence in the shaking baby deaths. So definitely it looks like that particular execution has been paused. And Besant says the U.S. purchased pesos and finalized framework for $20 billion lifeline for Argentina. So Warren asked hedge fund group if it plays Argentina bailout role. So U.S. buys Argentine pesos and agrees to a $20 billion swap line, according to what the Treasury Secretary is saying. And Trump will be visiting Walter Reed for his routine yearly checkup 6 months after his annual checkup. So Trump says he'll undergo routine semi-annual exam during a planned Walter Reed trip. Trump says he feels in great shape before a second medical exam at Walter Reed. So we'll see what folks have to say about that. I'll bring in Sasha Starr, see if anybody else joins us later on, and see what he's got to say about a number of these stories, including the idea of Trump getting a Nobel Peace Prize. So what are your thoughts? And Netanyahu and others seem to be excited about this possibility, but Norway is bracing for his reaction if he doesn't get it.
I would make a decision to give him Nobel Peace Prize for the next 5 years. Just maybe he will then shut up for a while and we will hear and see a little bit less of him. So I don't mind him to get this year's Nobel Peace Prize and next year and the following year, and actually as long as he lives, let him. Even when he will be finally put in jail, you can still can continue to give him the Nobel Peace Prize, no question asked. He just had a disastrous TV appearance just a couple of hours ago, where he just bombed, and he was talking about strangest things as about use of Tylenol, and that U.S. is Republicans are champions of health care, and in 2 weeks they will produce a plan never seen before in America about health care coverage. What is this plan? Nobody knows. I don't
Nobody
think
else.
he knows what it is. But anyways, they're pressuring Democrats to reopen the government. So what's basically their position is, okay, you first reopen the government, and then we'll introduce this fabulous the health plan, never seen ever before. But first, reopen the country. The Democrats are saying, show us the plan, and then we'll reopen the government. So it will be very interesting to see this showdown. Of course, they continue almost every day to have votes about reopening the government.
Mm-hmm.
So far, they're not getting anywhere with that. So as long as Democrats will be glued together and hold on to their decisions. There's nothing good as the waiting of Republicans and Donald Trump, because this shutdown can lead to the end of his presidency. By the way, 49% of the Americans they want impeachment of Donald Trump, and more and more people think that Republicans have to use Article 25, whereas the president is incapacitated of delivering his duties, and therefore has to be replaced. So one of two hopefully will happen soon.
We'll see what happens in that regards. I did see that, there was that election machine that got into a lot of trouble in the 2020 election, the Dominion voting system. But apparently, a GOP election official or former election official has bought it, and he says that he's going to push for paper ballots, because I think that was an electronic balloting system. So I guess he's going to push to get rid of the system that wasn't working and everything like that. So who knows? Maybe he'll find a way to even corrupt the election even further, because it's a St. Louis-based company called Liberty Vote. So definitely that'll be interesting to see what goes on in that regards. And the other thing that I know, I think Kim would show me the video, is that there was a video of a federal agent shooting a Chicago pastor in the head with a pepper ball during a Broadview ICE protest. So some people are wondering, are these ICE guys getting a little bit too carried away with their deadly force or their force in general? Because a pepper ball is not going to be deadly all the time. But what is your take? Are these guys getting greedy with power?
Yeah, I can agree with that. But however, everything should be simplified. Don't go into complicated issues. The simplified situation is the Democrats have to put demands on Republicans. What they want to do: resignation of Trump, resignation of Mike Wilson, resignation of actually all Republicans, delivering the Medicare affordable for all Americans, and just stick to that and say, okay, here's what we need. Okay, call us when you're ready, and leave for a month, for 2 months, for 6 months, and so on, and just keep shut down going. That will lead to a resignation of Trump and Republicans and complete new political scene in the United States.
Could do that. Could definitely do that. Might be a shorter term or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that regard. So a lot of people are fighting in that situation, trying to figure out when that'll go. And you're saying that maybe Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. So that'll be interesting to see what goes on. And part of this is because he's going to say that he has brought peace to the Middle East. And I know earlier today you said that if he's brought peace to the Middle East, it'll only last temporarily and everything like that. But definitely that's what is the reason that people, including Netanyahu, are saying that he deserves the Peace Prize because apparently they're saying he's brought peace to the Middle East. So is he brought peace to the Middle East?
I'm not so sure that he brought anything because no single hostage was released yet.
Yeah.
So we will see in the next day or two or three or five whether if at least one hostage will be released. So far, I don't see any indication whatsoever that someone is released. We'll talk about it when it will happen. Right
Yeah.
now, everything all was arranged. Supposedly, the first step of the plan, release of hostages and release of all these murderers from Israeli jails. And some of them are incredibly horrible killers. But okay, that's a deal. Okay, if Israel is happy with this deal, let them enjoy it. And Trump is happy and Hamas is happy. Okay, let's do that. So next, once that will be accomplished, if it will be accomplished, then comes the second stage of the deal when Hamas has to lay down their arms. And I'd like to see how it will happen.
Yeah, we'll see whether that happens or not. Apparently, and I mentioned this earlier this morning, the Pope is upset at the rich nations of the world because he's saying that economies are marginalizing the poor while the wealthy live in a bubble of luxury. And I know that sometimes people that are in the religious life live and choose to live a life of poverty and a life of not having the best of luxury and everything like that. But I just wanted your take on this notion of the Pope saying that the rich countries are marginalizing the poor.
I don't get your question, Mark.
No, the Pope has come out basically saying that the rich nations of the world, the oligarchs of the world, whether they're here in the U.S. or in Russia, where you've had some time at, or in France, they're the ones that are definitely not doing enough to help the least of these, which is what religion.
Okay, maybe he's right. Next question.
Okay, what's your take on what's going on with the Putin finally admitting that he was involved in that horrible plane crash in Azerbaijan and everything like that? So I did see that, and it took him a year to finally admit that they were involved. So what's your take on that? Because he did say that the air defenses were responsible for that jet crash last year that killed 38.
Well, he's a liar in everything what he's saying, even this admission, so called. It's not really admission because what he was saying is that it was not a Russian missile that hit the plane. It was hit by pieces of the missile. But that's how it works. Every missile never hits the target directly. It explodes nearly the targets, and the pieces are hitting the target, and that's how it's been destroyed. So what he's saying is just he's describing in details how this plane was destroyed. What an idiot! But there is something else. The talk is cheap. Azerbaijan is demanding a monetary compensation for all people who were killed and his families. And by the way, some people survive, by the way, because of the heroic actions of pilots and stewardesses and so on. So that Putin did not address.
Yep. Didn't address it at all and everything. You're talking about people that can be, and you said it on a couple of the shows, whether it's dealing with Gaza or whether it's dealing with Russia or whether it's dealing with a number of other things, and you just kind of alluded to it in those remarks and everything. Sometimes you got to wonder about people's kind of like what they're thinking when they decide to do something and everything. Because I did see that in the Gazelle Pelicot case, which was over there in France. The man appealed his case, and guess what, Sasha? Because he appealed his case, he got a longer sentence. So maybe he should have just kept his mouth shut and stuck with what he got the first time around. But he tried to appeal the case, and instead of getting a shorter sentence, he got a longer sentence. So you got to wonder about some people's political sense of what when they decide to challenge something, knowing that it may actually work in their detriment. So I did find that kind
Well,
of unique.
let's hope that one day it will work in US as well. So whenever Trump appeals anything, he will get even harsher punishment. Hopefully one day, maybe it will be done.
Maybe he can get some harsher punishment and everything like that because he's going around talking to the Finns now. So we'll see who he's going to talk to next. And apparently, he's worked out another deal with Argentina with this financial deal involving our money, which I guess will be the dollar, and their peso. So, what is your take on this notion of this trade that's going to help bail out Argentina?
Well, I already mentioned something that American farmers lost in the last few months $20 billion. And instead of compensating them, he gives the same $20 billion to Argentina. Wonderful. Look, I love Argentina and I love Argentinian soccer. And you know what? Maybe he's right. US farmers? Oh, you were voting for Trump. You wanted Trump to be your president? Enjoy. Welcome to hell. Bravo, bravo, American farmers. Give to Argentina another $20 billion. Go ahead.
Yep. And it looks like people are getting upset over this government shutdown because pressuring Democrats. Johnson has ruled a standalone troop pay bill, but Trump is saying and vowing that the military is going to be paid. And even on the network C-SPAN, a caller confronted Speaker Johnson about the shutdown effects and was arguing that because of some of the health parts of it, that this particular caller's kids could die. But he's Johnson is rejecting the push for military pay fix as the shutdown fight intensifies. So it looks like we're on day 9, getting ready to head to day 10. Are you thinking that this is going to last as long as the last one, or we're going to get a break in the next week or two, and maybe it won't be as
I
bad?
hope it will last much longer than the last one. I really hope that it will last at least 120 days, hopefully more than that. I really hope for that. And I hope Democrats are not stupid to cave in and have the government reopen so Trump could do all these things that he may be limited right now because the government's shut down. Keep it shut. Keep the shutdown going.
Chuck Schumer apparently agrees with you because some of the Republicans are slamming him because he made a remark that claimed that the shutdown is better for the Democrats. So apparently, the White House and Mike Johnson are trying to turn Schumer's shutdown remarks against him because it sounds like he's basically saying what you're saying, that it needs to be going as long as possible until some real concessions are made because even Chuck Schumer's critics aren't satisfied for now, and they're saying that he hasn't surrendered yet. So we'll see what goes on since he is the leader of the Democratic Party. So we'll see what goes on in that space. You mentioned earlier about some of the things that RFK is doing. What are you hearing about what? Because you mentioned Trump was talking about Tylenol and other stuff, and I know that RFK has been trying to change some of the rules. There is a people being asked to get their flu shot and their shots around the coronavirus and everything like that. But definitely looks like even Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting upset about some of the healthcare stuff and all along those lines. But what are you hearing in what you're watching of the news about what's going on with the healthcare and all along those lines, and
I
particularly?
was watching a little bit of this press conference earlier today. So he was talking about the vaccines. He was talking about all kind of stories. But look, people wanted Trump. People wanted Republicans. People got what they wanted. Enjoy. Welcome to hell. Oh, that's all I can say.
It says like it's definitely health because I just looked at another article from USA today, and this is really interesting. You'll love this one. I wish Rick was here. But apparently, earlier today, and maybe it was on the press conference that you were watching, RFK Jr. and Trump were linking circumcision to autism through Tylenol. So somehow you've got circumcision tied to autism, tied to Tylenol. I don't know that any of those three things are at all related, but he's trying to make them related. So definitely sounds like he's doing some weird comparisons of things and all along those lines.
No, the next thing what he will do, he will say that women who had abortions, they had much more chances to get a COVID. And go figure out.
Yep. Well, and apparently the White House also was denying the Colombians' president's claim about the boat strike because apparently they were trying to say the folks in the Colombia that the boat that was struck was only carrying Colombians and not carrying drugs. But he's trying to claim that it was another drug strike. One, I think a couple of them or two or three was Venezuela, and now he's claiming that this one from Colombia was carrying drugs. So maybe they're just randomly hitting speedboats that are in the water, and maybe some of these things aren't even carrying any drugs. Because after you blasted the smithereens, how do we know what was on the boat?
Well, I think Trump has to forbid any vessels to go anywhere. Let's see, those vessels that are in Colombia, they have to stay there and not go anywhere. Same as Venezuela, same as with Cuba, same as with just almost any other countries. And then if it works, then he can go to Europe and say the same to Spain and Italy and France and England and Germany and just any country. Just don't use your vessels because they may carry narcotics and all other substances. I don't want them. If I will see them, I will shoot them down. And so when you shoot, it's impossible to prove whether there were narcotics and there were not. I mean, there is no vessel anymore. Okay, it's all done. Everybody is killed. Okay, that's fine. Who's next?
Yep. Well, apparently, who's next? Because y'all were not sure of what I was talking about. So, since I've got you here, I'll explain a little bit more about this story. But apparently, a Rutgers professor wrote a book about Antifa, which we know is basically not even a socialist group. It's basically like believes in anarchy and stuff like that in 2017. And some conservative students wanted him fired. So, they're saying that this professor, who they claim teaches about anti fascism, because that's also what Antifa stands for, and everything moved to Europe after he was getting some death threats. So when I was bringing up Turning Point, it was the Rutgers Turning Point USA chapter that launched a petition to fire the professor they call Dr. Antifa. So U.S. anti-fascism expert is blocked from flying to Spain at the airport. So apparently they found a way to stop him from going to Spain by stopping him from traveling to another country, because I guess maybe they're going to get him for terrorism, or they're going to get him as a espionage or something like that. Who knows what they're going to do in the Trump government and everything like that. And it's just going to be a danger that other professors might have to worry about, whether they're at Rutgers or Duke or USC or wherever they might be at.
So I think he should fly to Russia and ask Putin for
Asylum?
to join Snowden, because
Okay.
Snowden is doing very well there. So maybe this guy will prosper in Russia. Why not?
Yeah, who knows? Well, I did see, I didn't know that. Apparently, a Democratic lawmaker here in my area has got hit with a child sex charge. So there are calls going for his immediate resignation. So we'll see what happens on Representative Brockman, whether he's going to have to resign after his arrest and charges of sex crimes and everything like that, because they're saying he took some indecent liberty. So hopefully that is not true, but we won't know until they go through the trial and everything like that.
So, Mark, what's your opinion? Are the Epstein files will be released one day, or it's a dead issue?
I wish they would be released, because I think there are probably a lot of names in there, both on Democrat, Republicans, and a lot of high rollers that probably should be outed and everything like that. But we had the madam as well, and they never really got her book either. So I have a funny feeling that that book is tucked away somewhere, that we will never see the full version of the book. It might be a what do they call it, retracted version, where they mark off some of the names and things along those lines. But I don't know that we'll ever see the full book, and we may not even get that. We might not even get that version. It may just be lost in the wilderness for decades and everything. When it comes out, it might be like we're just now getting released some of the Kennedy papers of after the assassination of JFK, which was way back in the '60s. So it might be at a time that me and you probably won't be here, even though with modern technology, who knows how long people will live and everything like that. But if it's going by the kind of way that JFK did, that took from the '60s to now, which is a little bit like 50 to 60 years. So if we wait for the Epstein case to come out after it was, first dealt with, I think they were first talking about Epstein in like 2021, 2022. So we're talking 2020, 2081. So, uh,
Marcos, this is another issue what Democrats have to put on the table among other demands. Immediate release full Epstein files. If not, welcome to hell. Shutdown will never end. Bye bye.
you never ended unless you give us the Epstein files. And I know they were trying to, and I've watched a little bit of it. They were trying to corner Pam Bundy into giving up, but she was trying to be evasive, and it doesn't sound like she
Not,
wants.
I've heard that testimony. It's not effective because there is no power that she has to answer truthfully their questions. So she was wiggling, and sometimes she was herself screaming at the Democrats. It just doesn't mean anything. Just say Epstein files, bye bye. Shutdown is indefinite. This is the only thing what Democrats have going for them. If they will lose this opportunity, they're dead. That's right.
Hey, yeah, and then they can do some other things too. I know a lot of people, and I mentioned, I think, on one of our shows yesterday, are upset about the nutrition programs because Trump is saying that he's going to find a way to. White House says it's going to use the tariff money to fund nutrition programs amid the shutdown. So they're saying they're going to find a way to keep folks fed with these nutrition programs because they're claiming they've got the funding to save the food aid program, and I guess they're claiming that they've got it through tariffs. But states are left in the dark on food aid despite Trump's promise of doing that and everything. So, as a lot of mothers and young children are hoping that they're going to get to keep getting their necessary food, but the promises may be empty promises.
What are you listening to this liar? He is lying every word. It's just waste of time to listen to this tirades and all this lies. Absolutely. All you do just keep shut down going indefinitely until Trump will resign as president, and he will be charged. And well, maybe Article 25 will do, then he will save himself from being charged because he's insane and he is insane. So, okay, maybe that's how he will save himself. Other than that, it's all lies, it's all mirrors, smoke and
Oh,
mirrors.
yeah, he's a master at smoking mirrors. He was a master at smoking mirrors with his real estate dealings and with some of his other dealings. And speaking of a person that is a master of politics, it looks like a master of politics may be gaining some ground in New York. I still think that he's going to lose, but they are saying that with Eric Adams, the current person that is in office out in terms of the New York City mayor, Andrew Cuomo is surging. So they're saying he's gaining ground and that he may be making gains and everything, but definitely Mamdani still leads. But they are saying that Cuomo has climbed 10% in the new polls, but still trails Mamdani after Adams' exit. So maybe he's going to make a big push, and maybe he'll make it a competitive race, and maybe he'll even shock the world and find a way to beat Mamdani. Even though I think Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of
When,
New York,
when is
contrary
the
to what
election, Mark? When is the election?
the election's in November.
In November.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not enough time for Cuomo.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough time for Cuomo either. I think he's dead in the water. I think he'll wind up losing the election and everything like that. And I think Eric Adams saw the writing on the wall, which is why he left and everything like that. Well, this has been a good, small, short show. I'm going to wrap this one up early as well, but we'll get ready to get on out of here. And definitely, I know you'll have a lot of conversation about Russia, Ukraine, and maybe even some of China's involvement on tomorrow's show with you, Jonathan Lockwood, and Ivan. So we'll definitely be
Yes.
hearing from our man in Kiev on tomorrow. And we'll also be recording the chess show that folks can watch on the network on Saturday. So looking forward to both of those shows tomorrow. But right now it's time for us to get on out of here since none of the other fellows wanted to pop on, if that's all right with you. And I'll get ready to prepare for Coco's show.
Thank you.
No problem.
Tomorrow. Bye bye.
See you tomorrow.